Hello, good morning, and welcome to Morning Brew on Labour Social. I'm Graham Hughes, broadcasting to you today from sunny Liverpool. Although my picture looks a bit dark on my monitor, sorry about that. If I lighten it up, you can see the green screen behind me. Anyway, I'm broadcasting from Liverpool from my parents' dining table, so I brought my entire studio with me. Fun, I know. So today I want to talk about an article that came out on Friday, and I mentioned it, I think, on Friday when we were talking about the agenda, maybe, and on the Labour Social. But it was an article by a guy called what's his name? Sam Ashworth-Hayes. He didn't go to the local comp, did he? Who was writing for the Telegraph, the Tory Graph, the paper that more than any other seems to think that Brexit is a great idea. Boris Johnson was the best Prime Minister of all time. Theresa May was wonderful. The budget that Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz Truss put together. Now, she's a quiz question, isn't she, for the future? It was the best Tory what's it called? Budget ever. This is the same newspaper. And now they're saying, actually, no. Everything's a bit shit. Why is it so bad? Why is it so bad? Well, I'll tell you why it's so bad. Because of Brexit. It's as simple as that. There's a 2-star Michelin restaurant. That makes it sound rubbish, doesn't it? If you say that a 2-star hotel, you'll be like, that's not very good. But a Michelin star is, it's a lauded pundit gong. It's a lauded gong, which not many restaurants have. And this place has got 2 of them. And it's closing down after over 50 years because of Brexit. And they just went, it's Brexit. What's the problem? It's Brexit. So let's go through what Sam Ashworth-Hayes thinks is going wrong. Well, emigration, not immigration, is seen as a path to prosperity for individuals in stagnating countries such as ours. He says the economy is stagnant. It has been for 15 years now, 15 years. Our economy just has struggled. It's been sluggish. And what the Tories have done in the last 13 years to try and kickstart the economy again has just made a bad situation worse. So let's go through it. First of all, austerity. Oh, that was a great idea, wasn't it? Austerity. Let's have some austerity, shall we? Now, what austerity does is it means that people have less money across the board. And as a result of having less money and worse services, so the people who can afford to pay don't want to because they think, what am I getting out of this? Fairly understandable, considering we do have quite a high tax burden compared with other countries that have a much higher rate ranking in services, like government services. You get more maternity pay, you get more pension, you get more social security, you get all these different things. Better education in other countries that have a tax rate comparable to ours or even less. So anyway, austerity didn't work. It meant people didn't have money, so people weren't paying for stuff, people weren't buying stuff as much because they didn't have as much money, and that makes the economy slow down. So then they thought the next great big wheeze, which was to have a Brexit, which is essentially shutting the door on your wealthy nearby customers and saying we're only going to trade with people who have got no money on the other side of the world. You have a look at that pie chart of the world that has the world's wealth in it. Like over the vast majority of the world's wealth is held by 5 countries. That's it. That's it. 5 in the world. I mean, if you count the EU as one entity, it's almost 3/4 of the world's countries, of the world's money. It's more than that, actually. It's something mad. I think it's over 80%. I think it's like 88% of the world's wealth is USA, India, Japan, the EU, the UK. That's it. So how we're going to trade with these tiny countries on the other side of the planet that can't afford to buy our stuff that we make because we only make high-end products, I've gone on about this enough. Brexit is a terrible, terrible idea, but also it's really bad for the economy. Really, really bad for the economy. So what was the Tories next week? Well, then they thought they'd get involved in this whole COVID business, and they thought the best way to deal with COVID would be to, allow for billions of pounds of fraud to go from the Treasury, just give £37 billion to Dido Harding, whose brother, John Penrose, is the head of, at the time, I think he was like the Tory MP in charge of corruption. And I thought that went quite well because obviously the whole system was corrupt and he was obviously in charge of it. Anyway, his wife got this contract for £37 million to make an app for your phone. They thought that would work, and Rishi Sunak, who's in charge at the moment, thought, oh, I know, let's have a thing called Eat Out to Help Out, which just spread the disease, spread the virus more. We didn't lock down soon enough, which cost lives and the economy. We could have closed down our airports, which would have allowed more freedom for people to move about in our country. But no, we kept the airports open. We allowed anyone in who wanted to come in. They just had to take a test, maybe, if you can be bothered. You know, you don't have to. We're not going to twist your arm. Honestly, it was absolutely horrific, their handling of COVID, which also negatively impacted the economy. And then we had the debacle that happened after the invasion of Ukraine by Putin. Once the price of gas went up, but we only got 3% of our gas from Russia. But you know, we should have been fine. We're energy self-sufficient, aren't we? No, we could be. But the Tories put a ban on onshore wind farms, amongst other things, that would have helped us be sufficient for our own energy. So we were thrown to the mercy of the international energy markets for buying petrol and gas, which we should have outgrown by now, which the Tories could have done if they had entered in 2010 on a war footing against climate change. But here we are. California's underwater, but, you know, everything's going great. So another thing that the Tories did that is incredibly damaging that they didn't, sort out at the time, climate change. So now we're seeing more and more frequent, absolutely horrific, catastrophic weather events, flooding, and we had fires. We had out of control wildfires in which people's houses burned last summer. So that's another thing that costs the economy a lot of money. And now the latest thing is that the inflation is too high, so they need to slow down the economy, and they want to do that by raising the prices of everything, so people don't have enough money to buy things. So they want to put things into a recession to bring down the inflation rate, which is maybe a temporary measure at best, but our economy is going down the plug hole. And now, even the Telegraph are admitting it. The UK's economic stagnation and lack of wage growth in the last 15 years is mind-blowing. The price of houses has gone up something like 10 times, whereas wages have only gone up like 4 or 5 times. Like the rates are insane. The GDP per capita of Britain is getting closer to Slovenia rather than Denmark or Australia. The housing market is completely dysfunctional, with 90% of the wealth, mostly held in housing in the country, in the hands of the boomer generation. And this is why we're seeing just an unprecedented number of children living with their parents into their 30s. Rising tax burden and struggling NHS despite high taxes. So the NHS, as I said earlier, is struggling. Well, all services are struggling, but the NHS in particular, which is crazy because we're being taxed like higher than ever before. It's something like 37.5% of our income goes on tax, and yet the government can't run services because they can't run an economy, they can't run services, they can't run a country, they couldn't run a bath. The people in charge of this country are morons. Please stop listening to them just because they have a posh accent and they sound like they know what they're talking about. They really, really don't. Please stop listening to them. Okay, I'll just go back to my native Scouse accent now because that feels really uncomfortable. I might need a bath after this broadcast. Oh my God. So what else have we got? We got, other countries have got more opportunities. This is what this guy's saying in the Telegraph. Like Poland, which is set to have a higher GDP per capita by the end of the decade. Poland. The Poland that was behind the Iron Curtain until 1989. Do you remember Poland? Yeah? Do you remember that country? Yeah? Yeah, struggling Poland. Yeah, they're going to be doing better than us. If we were ranked in terms of American states, we would be below Mississippi, the 50th state in terms of GDP per capita, in terms of economic growth, economic forecasts. The Tories have done an absolute number. Yes, Patrick in the chat. Yes. Good morning, Gloom says, but it's a beautiful day today. So, well, it is in Liverpool anyway. Let me know how it is where you are. And I'm really hot. I'm not used to this. I usually broadcast from the bunker in Durham, and it's usually freezing cold, even on the hottest day of the year. But I'm actually wearing a t-shirt with pleasure today. Good old Liverpool. Living in a stagnant economy with high taxes becomes unappealing. And this is why loads of people are going. And there's a lack of political will to address issues. And there's limited voices asking for change. I can't disagree with that. I can't believe I'm agreeing with someone in the Telegraph. But the title of this article is, if you are under 50, it's time to jump ship. Get out of Britain while you still can. The UK seems incapable of solving its own issues, and things are set to get worse. And also the UK's population burden over the next few years, unless we have more people immigrating to the UK, we are stuffed, because there's going to be not enough people to look after the old people. Don't get ill, don't get cancer, don't get dementia or Parkinson's, mate, because especially if you're under 50 now, in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, think about where you're going to be. In this country, no one's going to look after you. The government won't have the money because the Tories have pissed it all up the wall. And I'm sorry to start the week like this on this note, but it's just one of the things that I bang on about. And obviously not all old people, not all boomers, but a huge proportion of people in that particular cohort, not necessarily the silent generation above them or the greatest generation above them, but the boomers in particular, have this victim mentality, a chip on their shoulder. I don't know what it is, but they seem to hate the young. And that is a huge problem that we have going forward. And not all old people. Can I just stress that as much as I possibly can? I am not talking about 100% of old people. I'm not talking about you if you are an older person. I'm not talking about your mum or your dad or your grandparents. If they are older and they don't hold these opinions, I'm not talking about all of them, okay? I'm not making a sweeping generalization about 100% of older people or boomers, right? I'm saying that over 50%, well over 50% of boomers vote Tory, own their own house, have loads of money, compared with the younger cohorts, all right? I know there's pensioners living in poverty. I'm saying over 50%. Can I really stress this before I get crucified in the chat for saying, oh, stop being ageist, Graham? I'm not talking about all of them. I'm saying that a significant proportion, is that better, have some issues with younger people, it seems, because they seem to want to make younger people's lives an absolute abject misery. Just had to get that out. So yeah, get out while you can. And if you're American and you're watching this, if Trump wins the next election, please get out while you can. But I'll come on to this later. I'm going to do another last night today this week, I hope, from here in Liverpool, and it's going to be addressing again Trump's legal woes, because I've got to do videos about it. But the fact that I think the state of California has been the first to say they're not going to put his name on the ballot. Even if he stands and he wins the primary, they're not going to put his name on the ballot. Now, it won't matter too much in California because they're not going to vote for Trump. But when other states see that and start going, yeah, we shouldn't put his name on there either. And that's a big problem for the Republican Party. I think this week you might start seeing some more actual MAGA-style Republicans abandon Trump. It could be quite interesting. Friday's D-Day, isn't it? That's when he's got to hand himself in to be fingerprinted and mugshotted in Georgia. So let's see where that happens. Big shout out to David Faulkner there in the chat. Thank you very much. Hypocrisy. Same people who tell us that young need to abandon ship are those people who tell us that asylum seekers should leave our shores. Absolutely, David. I mean, this is in the Telegraph, which makes it so phenomenal that they've come out with this. They've come out with this article that you might expect in the Guardian. You might even expect it in the Independent or the Eye or something, or one of the more left-wing leaning newspapers. I don't think there's many. I don't think there's any, actually. But yeah, you might expect it in something like that. But this, in the Telegraph, it's mind-blowing, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going to jump into the chat now that I've done my little monologue, and I realised that I've come to Liverpool, right? I brought my desktop PC that Phil kindly donated to this channel. I brought my hard drives, a big light up here. I brought my little circle light, it's over there. I brought my tripod, my camera, my laptop, my monitors, 2 monitors, my mouse and keyboard and put everything. You know, it's like big operation. Even put my little auto cue thing that sits on top of my camera when I'm using that. Yeah, all this stuff. And it took me ages. It took me about an hour to set everything up. There's cables everywhere. And I forgot to make myself a cup of tea, which is possibly why I sound a little hoarse. Never mind. I'll have one as soon as this is over. Okay, so into the chat. The Brexit. This is from Adrian. The Brexiters' Tories' lies about the economy work so well with much of their core base because most of it isn't economically inactive and live on passive and/or state incomes, mostly pensioners. Yeah. Well, do you know what was interesting? So, two sides to this. There was the Lionesses' magnificent performance yesterday. Unfortunately, they didn't win, but oh my God, that save. England were in the World Cup final. That was pretty amazing. There's two things I'd just like to say about this before I go on. First of all, I think that the Prince of Wales, William should have gone over. He should have gone over. I know air pollution and things like that, but there are scheduled flights. He could have gone on a scheduled flight and just gone over just to, I don't know. He's the head of the FA. If I was the head of FA, I would have gone, and I'm just me. Do you know what I mean? I'm just me. I'm not the head of the FA. If I was, anyway. Also, did you hear about the manager of the England team gets £400,000 a year? Whereas Gareth Southgate, the head of the England team, you know, there's two different teams, one for women and one for men. The head of the men's team, he gets 5 million. 5 million. Anyway, look, Labour, for rightly or wrongly, decided that they would support having a bank holiday if the Lionesses won the World Cup, and they were calling on the government to do this. And I was like, oh, well, you know, I don't think this is really what Labour should be focusing on. And if you're interested in what Labour are focusing on, we've started a new series every Sunday at 4:00. It's called Labour Vision, and it's about Labour policy. And each week, Phil Morehouse is going to pick apart a different part of Labour policy. So when people say to you, Labour don't have any policies, because everyone, it's not you talk like that, obviously, you can turn around and go, yes, they do. I've watched Phil's videos, and this is what they plan to do about employment, about the environment, about the NHS, etc., etc. Sorry, I'm sitting on a really creaky chair. I'll try and get a better chair tomorrow. Anyway, or just not move so much. Anyway, so I digress. But anyway, so this survey came out, and I thought, well, you know, fair enough. They want a bank holiday. I don't really see why, you know, it's that big a deal. I think it's wonderful that we got into the World Cup, but there's a lot of people who don't really care about football, and you know, the economy's not doing great at the moment. Having another day off work, I don't know. It's not what I would focus on, but I don't care. You know, at the end of the day, that's what Labour want to send out their comms pushing for. Then fair enough. I suppose it's pretty innocuous. Also, I thought, and then I saw another poll which I'll try and dig it out and put it into the description. Well, it said, like, should we get a bank holiday? And literally everyone over the age of 65 who's, like, retired. Most of them, all of them, not all of them. Hashtag not all people over the age of 65 are retired. My mum is 74 and she's still working. She's at work now. She works full time. Wow. But yeah, most people who are over the age of 65 are retired. They were the ones who said, no, we shouldn't have a bank holiday. And I was like, looking at this stats, it was like 74% saying we shouldn't have a bank holiday. And I'm like, you don't work. You don't even work. So that made me want a bank holiday. But, oh my God, how cruel is that cohort? I mean, what is wrong with them? What is wrong with them? There's a book called A Generation of Sociopaths, How the Baby Boomers Destroyed America. Look it up. I didn't write it. Someone else did. But, oh my God, like, what the... Anyway, I'll just calm down a bit now, because that just blew my mind. It was like, young people went, yeah, all right, we'll have a bank holiday. Well, that'd be good. And then like, these older people are like, no. Like over 80%, I think it was. No, not having a bank holiday. How dare they even think about it? And it's like, but you don't work. And this is something that I would like to stress. I do stress time and time again. We are a class-riddled society, absolutely. And class now is more of an economic thing. I think it always was, but in the past it had elements of socialness to it. Now it's kind of it's just purely economics. Most people have a phone. Whether you're incredibly rich or not very rich at all, you've got a smartphone. There's not that. I know some people don't. Not all people. Not all Tory voters. Not all Brexiteers. Not all everyone has a phone. But most people do. And the things that used to divide society is like, you know, most people have a TV. Most people have a fridge. Most people have running water and electricity. Even if you're poor, poverty is relative in this country. They might not have enough food in their belly, but when it comes to actual things that people have in their homes, it's fairly similar. Whether you're a multi-billionaire or whether you're just living off minimum wage. I mean, you might have a PlayStation. It's the same PlayStation that Elon Musk plays. Do you know what I mean? It's the same. Maybe he has a gold-plated one. I don't know. But the point being, it's less of a social thing now. It's more of an economic thing. Except when it comes to basically this huge divide of people who have never lived that life. There was discussion over the weekend about Bradley Cooper playing Leonard Bernstein, the writer of West Side Story, in this biopic in which he wears a prosthetic nose, and there was some agitation about this because people were like, he's not Jewish, why is he playing a Jewish character? We've got Helen Mirren is coming up soon playing Golda Meir, is it? The female prime minister of Israel soon, and she also wears prosthetics to look more Jewish. And people are like, and I get this. Honestly, I kind of go along with it. If you're not Jewish and you haven't had that life experience, then you haven't had that life experience. And whereas certain aspects of society, yes, in terms of what commodities people have, it has sort of converged. Where we have absolutely diverged has been this thing where our ruling elite, our ruling classes, the people on the TV, the people presenting the news, the people the news is about, the people who, pretty much you could watch the news. You could watch the TV, you could watch the BBC for an entire evening and not see a single person who went to a state school. And I think that's a huge problem for the same reason that I think it's problematic if someone is playing a Jewish character, especially, someone who's the Prime Minister of Israel. I mean, that's not just like, oh yeah, they did this thing and they happen to be Jewish, which I see the Leonard Bernstein thing about, because, it's not quite as relevant. It's not, I don't know, I haven't seen it yet, but it may not be as relevant to the story, the fact that he was Jewish. But at the same time, yeah, if there's a Jewish actor who can play that character, could we have a Jewish actor? Because at least they're a bit more informed. But then, especially if it's the Prime Minister of Israel, where being Jewish is absolutely 100% vital to that person's life story, of a biopic or whatever, yeah, probably get Maureen Lipman to play the Prime Minister rather than Helen Mirren, for instance. But I mean, yeah, I get that. So what I'm getting at is that if you are a very, very rich, privileged actor who went to private school, like your Benedict Cumberbatches and people like that, I don't think, or Olivia Colman or Simon Pegg or Banksy, he's not an actor, but he did go to private school, which blows my mind. You're not allowed to make graffiti art. Stop that. I'm going to arrest you. Oh, you went to private school? Okay, carry on. It's worth a fortune now. Funny that. But yeah, I don't think they should be allowed to play working class characters, or at least be discouraged from playing working class characters in movies. Because they do. They go, oh, I'm only pretending to be posh. I'm really poor. I grew up in a single mum in, in Croydon, the top of a bloody tower block. And I'm like, no, you didn't. You didn't. I know the character might have done, but I know the whole thing is like, it's acting. But the life experience, I think, should come into it to some extent, unless you're doing Shakespeare. I don't know. But then you start getting into silly territory where you go, well, should only murderers play murderers then in films so that the experience of murdering someone? It's like, oh no, it's probably gone a bit too far. But yeah, maybe a bit of consciousness consciousness raising about the situation. Anyway, back into the chat. Food Bank Holidays says, Gary Arnold. We've got Ben Kingsley playing Gandhi. Well, funny you should mention Ben Kingsley because he has actually got Indian heritage. So I'm gonna step off the gas a little bit about Ben Kingsley playing Gandhi. Although he did play a Jewish character in Schindler's List, where it was very important that the people in it were Jewish, and he's not Jewish, but he does have Indian heritage. So I didn't mind him playing Gandhi so much, and he was very, very good. He was very, very good in Richard Attenborough's film. Still holds the Guinness World Record for the most extras in a scene, which I think it will always hold now because they just digitally reproduce the same segments of people again and again, like they did the pod race in Star Wars Episode 1, because it's all CGI now. It's all CGI. Then should Gary Oldman play Winston Churchill? Well, yeah, that's fine. But yeah, Gary Oldman's not posh, and he's playing a posh person. So yeah, it's a can of worms. Do you like me can of worms? I think that in situations like this, in the casting, there should be a little bit of affirmative action that goes into it. And, if it comes to it, then I don't mind so much. But you obviously, I think each case has got to be taken on its own merits. If you're playing a character who is, say Jewish, and it's not particularly important to the plot that they're Jewish, they never go to the synagogue, they don't do any Jewish things. It's not entirely, because we just had Cillian Murphy playing Oppenheimer, who's also Jewish, and obviously Cillian Murphy is not Jewish, and people had a problem with that. And I get it. But with Oppenheimer, did his Jewishness come in? Well, I suppose it did, because he knew what was happening in Europe to European Jews, and he was like, we've got to stop the Nazis, let's build a big bomb. Anyway, Ben Kingsley was brilliant in Schindler's List, as were non-Germans, Ralph Fiennes and Liam Neeson. Well, that's what I mean about kind of moments. You need to get a German to play a German. Do you need to have a Scouser to play a Scouser? And then can a Scouser play Al Capone? It's just, a bit difficult to find soldiers to play World War I trenches. I know. But where can this logically conclude? Says the Fuckabiani. Should Americans not play Brits? Should Canadians not pass themselves off as American? Can a Scotsman play it being a Russian? Reference to Sean Connery there. So, Sean, you got to play a Russian in this film. Got to keep my Russian accent, my Scottish accent. Well, yeah, absolutely. You're going to be Irish in this film, in The Untouchables. Oh, can I keep my Scottish accent? Yes, you don't have to sound Irish at all. Just say you're Irish. That's fine. Oh, in Highlander, you're going to play a Spaniard called the Spaniard, who's actually from Egypt. Can I keep my Scottish accent? Yes, Sean. Sure. No, I mean, look. Obviously, there is sort of what is it? There's a reductum ad absurdum about all this. Where you're like, oh, you can only get the person who's actually the biopic is about to play the person in the biopic, obviously. But no, I'm talking about a little bit of positive discrimination in situations where you're casting for a character. Maybe get someone from a similar background to play that character. I would rather have working class actors playing working class people. Just in general, which we do on soap operas, just not in films, because the films are where all the money is made. There you go. Please check your super chats. I have a super chat. Oh, thank you, Maggie Pie. Oh, thank you. I didn't see that. Thank you to Maggie Pie for 50 Swedish krona. Thank you very much. Thank you for the 50 Swedish krona. Moving from the EU to the UK at this point would be like reverse engineer your gearbox so that your car so reverse is the only way to drive forward. Well, that's how it's described to us by some people that we met in Geneva, not necessarily in the World Trade Organization building, but maybe around somewhere like that. But they described it as, you imagine you're on a motorway and you've got all the cars, and all the cars are different countries, and that's the economies moving forward. And then suddenly, for no reason whatsoever, you slam into first. You slam Britain's economy into first, and that's what you're doing with Brexit. Yeah. The guys I met over there were pretty weirded out. Shall I say weirded out? Is that a way of saying this? Pretty weirded out by the fact that we were doing what we were doing. They thought it was incredibly irresponsible and would lead to a lot of suffering, which it has done. Anyway, so Maggie Pie, thank you very much for that super chat there. And also, someone in the chat just mentioned that I haven't got my mug. I haven't got my Labour Social mug. No, I haven't got tea at all, but I didn't bring my Labour Social mug. Should have done that. Graham, in 2 years with AI, no one will work. No, I think they will. I think they will work more efficiently than ever before. I think I'm embracing AI because it's doing all those crappy jobs that I can't be arsed doing, like copy, like writing the blurb for YouTube videos, those kind of jobs where you've got to use like weasel words or words that draw people in, writing the titles for these videos and things to get people to click on the thumbnail. If AI wants to do it, then I don't have to. It's not particularly in my skill set to do that kind of thing. Whereas writing my second book about my travels around the world, I'm happy for AI to help me with that because only I can tell that story. I couldn't type it into AI, write a story about Graham's second year of his adventures and make it good and funny, because it wouldn't. So I'm not really that worried about it as much as other people maybe are who see their career going down the pan. Nobody's going to watch a channel like this with AI Graham talking from a generated script. It'll be Uncanny Valley. It'll be rubbish. yeah, it won't have the same interaction. It'd just be a bit rubbish. I believe. Why, grew up to 10 o'clock already. Right, quick into the chat. We're having a good ding-dong about this can people play other people thing. It's called acting, darling. Only Andy Serkis can play Gollum. That is absolutely true, because Gollum is based on Andy Serkis, who's a time traveller. Obviously, he went back in time and influenced Tolkien to write Gollum that way in 1937. William says, otherwise people are rendered down to arbitrary characteristics, may not reflect who they actually are. Viv said, I don't think Maureen Lipman can get the emotional range of Mirren as Golda Meir, and Mirren may not have the comedy chops of Lipman. So it's about talent as well as representation. Yeah, Viv, I absolutely agree. I mean, look, I'm not entirely wedded to this whole idea of only actors from a certain background play. Like, if it was an absolute rule, like we can only have Jewish people casting for this role, I think that would be a bit too much. But giving preference on, when you tick in the boxes to say, well, they have the experience of growing up Jewish and being part of the Jewish community, which would inform their performance in this part, then yeah, okay, cool. I mean, but then if you can't find anyone who's like that, then fine, give it to one of us Gentiles. Reagan says, support Labour Social. Thank you very much, Reagan, for putting that in. Duke has been, Tory, oh, sorry, that's not to me. The hint is in the name actor. I don't get your point. Well, you can no longer have a white person playing a black person in a film. That would be really, really culturally insensitive. And also, you're seeing a lot fewer white people voicing ethnic minority roles in TV shows, in animation, I should say. So back in the day, you could have a white guy doing the voice of Apu in Simpsons. You can't have that anymore. And they've tried to make it so that, the woman who does the voice for Moana is actually Polynesian, which is good and, suits the show somewhat. William says, AI is like those bullshitting Tories. It all sounds convincing, but when you check references, citations, etc., you realise AI is talking out of its virtual arse. Yes, it is. It is notoriously unreliable, AI. AI voices on YouTube are really awful and annoying. Yes, they are. They just don't have the right intonation. They say things weird and certain words just don't come out right. It's just doesn't have the same flow, and also doesn't have the same interaction. One of the big things that we're trying to build here on Labour Social is a lot of interaction. That's why we do so many live shows when they don't actually make much money at all, because YouTube keep limiting these bloody videos. Even though we try, we strenuously try not to swear, they still manage to do it. And we've got FTUM Shook says, if only people with the same background are allowed to play certain characters, then Last Mohicans is going to be a bugger to cast. Well, exactly. I'm not making an absolute declaration here that, like I say, just a little bit of positive discrimination. If you are going to have someone playing a Native American, a Sioux, or someone who's Apache or something like that, then maybe someone who's actually Sioux or actually Apache should be thought of first for that role, rather than a white guy like Jake Gyllenhaal playing the Prince of Persia. Okay, Kathy Burke played Queen Mary Elizabeth and was brilliant. She also playing across class in reverse can work too. Yes, Viv, that's very true, but I would like to see more opportunities for working class actors. Just in general, because honestly, have a look at privateschoolmafia.com and just have a look how many Oscar-winning actors from the UK went to a posh school. Weird casting choice I've seen is one-legged comedian who couldn't act was selected to voice a one-legged cartoon character. That's going a bit far, but yeah. Anyway, right. I don't have a problem with a little bit of positive discrimination. I really don't. I think we should. Because, and I think that should extend to people who are from a lower economic bracket. Working class people should be given preferential treatment when it comes to getting into university and getting certain jobs and things like that, because it is absolutely dominated by people who are incredibly rich. And also, probably don't need the money. Just saying. Anyway, so yeah, back to the show. So it is Monday, the 21st of August, 2023. God, it's only a few weeks till Christmas. Talking of Christmas, before I go, just want to let you know that I've had a generous donation towards the UK for UKR Fund. So it means I'll be doing another trip to Ukraine in the next few months. And I was going to go next month, but talking to my contacts over there, it's not like it was last year where we needed to go over with supplies and drop them off at the border for the refugees coming through, stuff like medical supplies, because it was incredibly either incredibly cold or incredibly hot at that particular border that we went to, and we needed medical supplies for the thousands of people coming through there. And also there was a massive refugee centre which needed supplies like you would not believe. And then picking up refugees from that refugee centre in Poland and taking them to Germany or to Netherlands or to the UK or wherever their host family were, who they would be staying with for the foreseeable, which is still running into this year and might go on for many years to come, unfortunately, as the war seems to have grown into a little bit of a stalemate at the moment, and not much progress is being made on either side. I'm not a military person. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I just see the situation as it's not there's not a lot of movement, and we are heading into autumn now, unfortunately. I know I don't want to bring down anyone's summer. So what I was thinking this autumn is, rather than doing 2 trips and taking a little bit each time, actually filling up a van with, you know, a good amount of merchandise, should we say, and taking it over to Ukraine and actually taking it to one of the orphanages that we've done some work with in the past, filling the van full of Christmas presents for the kids. So that's what we're thinking of doing. So I'll give you more information about that close to the time. And if you want to donate, or we'll sort out a way of getting some presents together. I'm thinking of getting in touch with like Smiths, someone like that. Maybe they want to sponsor a trip out there to take this stuff out, because the number of orphans, obviously, in Ukraine has gone through the roof because the Russians invaded and killed a lot of people. And also a lot of men are getting killed and women are getting killed, you know, fighting against the Russians. So yeah, we'll be doing that, hopefully, in the next couple of months. We will see. I'll just see who was calling me then. I need to see who was calling me. If it was, oh, all right. Cool. Oh, cool. Just had a message from someone, might come with me. That should be cool. Watch this space. Wow, that happened live. Okay, so yeah, very intense fighting. Front line's not moving a lot, which means the war has slackened in ferocity and cost. What Putin has to do, well, I mean, look, you know, I'm going to leave you on this note because obviously I've gone a bit over time, but I am quite excited that we got it all set up here in Liverpool. I managed to actually get the show out on time, although I did forget my cup of tea. But yeah, if Russia stops fighting this war, then that's the end of the war. If Ukraine stops fighting, it's the end of Ukraine. And for anyone who thinks that Ukraine should surrender or give up or stop fighting, just say that to them. Putin is a monster. Maggie Pie, you're absolutely right. So yeah, more information about that coming up tonight. I should be back, I hope, with Supertansky for the swear jar, and I don't know if this is confirmed yet, so we're going to try and do it. Keep an eye out, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon. That'll send a little message to you to say, you know, join us. But if not, Phil will be here in the morning at 9:30 a.m. for Morning Brew, and he'll have a lot to talk about, I'm sure, even though it's the silly season, and we should just be, I don't know, talking about daft things in the football. Not that football's daft, just saying daft things, comma, Oxford comma, and the football. Okay, so thanks very much for watching, and until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.